Bryan Kohberger, a 28-year-old criminology student at Washington State University, is being charged with 4 counts of murder in the first degree. In the early morning hours of November 13, 2022, 4 University of Idaho students were brutally stabbed to death in their 6-bedroom rental home near campus. The victims, Madison Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, Chapin, and Xana Kernodle, leaving 2 other surviving roommates behind alive, Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk. Bryan frequently visited the place of employment of Maddie Mogen and Xana Kernodle at the Mad Greek restaurant. This is where I believe he watched Madison closely. Earlier on the evening of November 12th, 2 of the 4 victims, Kernodle and Chapin, were at a nearby party from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. The other 2 victims, Maddie and Kaylee, had gone down to the Corner Club, a sports bar, at 10 p.m. They would eventually part from the bar at 1:30 a.m. They were soon after seen at a local food truck together at 1:41 a.m. The 2 girls took an Uber home and arrived back home at 1:56 a.m. All roommates were back home sometime after 1:45 a.m. Xana had ordered DoorDash at 4 a.m. It would be right around this time that Bryan Kohberger allegedly entered the home. The 4 victims were stabbed to death on the 2nd and 3rd floor, where they had all been in bed. Mogen and Goncalves were found together in Mogen's room. Left behind, under one of the victims' body, was Bryan's knife sheath, with his DNA found on it. Xana and Ethan were found in Xana's room. Detectives believe that the killings took place sometime around 4 a.m. and 4:25 a.m. Though Bryan's phone ping puts him at the residence after 3 a.m. His car is seen driving away at a very high speed in the late night hours after the killings. No calls were made to 911 until 11:58 a.m. 8 hours later. Why is that? Since there were 2 other roommates alive, hearing and seeing what was going on, all 4 victims were pronounced deceased at noon. Cell phone data shows that Bryan was in the same location of the victims 12 times. His cell phone pings followed their every move for weeks. It appeared that Bryan was indeed stalking his victims. Bryan's phone pinged again after the murders that morning around 9 a.m. Returning to the scene, he would be there from 9:12 a.m. until 9:21 a.m. Bryan Kohberger then traveled towards Lewiston that afternoon and would not return back to the area until after 8 p.m. At 12:49, Bryan is seen at an Albertsons purchasing unknown items. He exits the store at 1:04 p.m. His phone goes off-grid on his journey for several hours. Finally, after 8 p.m. he finally gets back home. Was Bryan disposing of evidence on that route he took to Lewiston? Bryan is later seen traveling with his father to Pennsylvania for Thanksgiving. Along the way, they are stopped by police officers for speeding. I believe that Bryan was being tailed and watched from that moment on. Bryan was seen at the family home, incessantly cleaning out his vehicle, wearing gloves and disposing garbage into the neighbors' trash bins in the middle of the night. Bryan is soon arrested at the family home on December 30, 2022. He is currently sitting in the Latah County Jail in Moscow, Idaho, awaiting trial. A trial date has not yet been set.